much. We are still in the studio, and I still have Professor Mukhtar Imam and Clement Chukwemeka. Now, Prof,
yes,
I had said to you, I'll still come back to you, because I was going to put in a question to enable you to land.
Right.
And that is, in assessing 2 years of Tinubu, therefore, when it comes to governance and federal and state relationship, wouldn't you say that Tinubu has done very well? One, he's tried to give the local governments their independence, which is in the constitution, and worked very hard to achieve that legally. Two, he's making more resources available, which is his responsibility. So in terms of governance and relationship and resources, hasn't he done well?
Well, your question is as subjective as it is debatable, but the reality is that the administration has done fairly well in terms of assessment, as far as ensuring, even though in principle, that the local government begins to enjoy significant autonomy, which we see being currently in practice being suppressed by the state government and other state actors or institutions, as the case may be. However, I think it is only fair to say that the president has done his bit, but a lot more needs to be done, because you see, governance is not just about what you do on the paper, it is about entrenching what you have done on the paper. And these are some of the back-end jobs, or the behind-the-scene jobs that the administration has to ensure it carries upon itself to see to it that those things that it has done on paper reflects on the ground. Because at the end of the day, recall what I said, people are going to hold you accountable. Nobody is going to care about your handlers. The first question will be, what did he do as an administrator? How did he fare economically? How did he fare in security? How did he fare on the environment? And very importantly, how did he fare in foreign policy? This administration is going to be held account. In 2 years, we do not have an ambassador in any country. These are some of the things I would have loved to talk about, but of course, because of time. So, on the whole, the administration has done fairly well, but the administration needs to remember that people do not judge you, even though I've talked about the human development indices and all that, people do not judge you on the macro, it is on the micro. If people cannot afford food, your removal of subsidy and whatever, nobody cares about that, because the current structure and the status quo does not allow people to interrogate their state governors. Remember what is in the exclusive list. And until and unless some kind of restructuring is done for things to be brought out there, so that people can realize that, oh, it is my governor's responsibility and he hasn't carried it out. Until and unless that is done, we will continue to point fingers to the center. And why is this so? Because the center wants so much power around it, not understanding that that power is inimical to its existence, and so a lot more needs to be done. You remove subsidy and food inflation has gone over 30%. 34 now. And then, of course, people still cannot access fuel because of the cost. Because as economists, we want to make you believe demand and supply determine. No, not just demand and supply that determines the prices of goods and commodity. Income also does as well. There's a huge income inequality gap. There's a huge and widening gap in wealth distribution. These things need to be addressed. And until and unless these things happen, this blame game will continue. But as far as blame, there's enough to go around. Even for the citizenry, we must understand in conclusion that democracy is not a destination, but a journey. We have started. Let's try to be hopeful that things will turn around. But when you look at the resources available and the level of development that we have achieved or strides, you will see that it is in fact not commensurate, and a lot more needs to be done. I conclude by that.
Prof, I won't let you go immediately. Please, just give me a little more, even if it's 5 minutes, because the guest in Lafayette has, I want to ask him a particular question, because he is in the locality. And the question I'm going to ask him, that's Honorable Akala in Lafayette. I will come back to you because it is necessary that we touch on it before Akala. Honorable Akala, if you are there, if you are still there with us, you are in Lafayette. You are hearing us talking about the contributions of the subnationals in overall national, in assessing overall national development. When it comes to security or insecurity, it happens in the localities most of the time. How well has the Tinubu administration secured Nasarawa State, and by the same token, the local areas of the country. Is there a difference between the past administrations from your experience and now?
Well, thank you very much. I think the last speaker has made a very strong point where he
Well, Honorable Akala, apparently the network is not cooperating with us. Okay, okay.
Yeah, I can hear you.
I'm told we have gotten you back. Go ahead. That's a challenge with. Please go ahead, Honorable Akala.
I can hear you. Can you hear me now?
Yes, I can hear you very clearly.
Okay. So the major challenge we have as a nation is that levels of government are not pursuing coherent policies targeted at dealing decisively with some major challenges confronting the nation, especially security. You see, the level of security challenge we face today has been on and off. Today you see it's getting better, tomorrow you hear another thing else. And the reason clearly has been because the local government is not empowered. Every crime is committed in a locality and in a community. And of course, when His Excellency Mr. President took the bold step through the AG, Attorney General of the Federation, to approach the Supreme Court to say, look, let funds standing in favor of 774 local government gets to them, was celebrated by every Nigerian, especially those of us who have had the opportunity to administer a local government, understands the import and the importance of funding local government to tackle insecurity. But unfortunately, this has not come to light because the same federal government has not summoned the courage to enforce judgment of the Supreme Court. This is one of the major low points of this administration. So that has contributed significantly in not helping the states and the entire country to fight insecurity head on. I tell you, whatever approach that will be deployed by the federal and state government, until the local government is empowered to domesticate these strategies and develop homegrown mechanisms of tackling insecurity at community level, I tell you, this challenge will continue to fester. Therefore, the level of security, or you call it insecurity, I tell you, has been an average, a marginal improvement, because the people are still not free to go to their farms. And until the people are free to go to their farms, we cannot say security has improved. That's because what the people live on, most of our people are farmers. So even civil servants have farms. So they must go to their farms freely, and that is when we can say that we still hear kidnappings, we still hear picking people even in cities, even here in Nasarawa State. So I would not comfortably say that the situation has increased. There's a marginal increase, and I can see efforts being made to improve on them. But until the local government gets funding, this challenge may not be overcome. So macroeconomic indices that are looking good, but that does not affect the common man at the grassroots. So it is the microeconomic policies that has direct impact on the livelihood of the citizens at the grassroots. So this is what I expect that levels of government should pursue. I give you a clear example. When the president removed the fuel subsidy, they introduced what they call CNG vehicles. How many states today are pursuing that? No state you can see clearly that is pursuing to say, oh, let me ensure that all commercial vehicles operating within my state converted to CNG to bring down the cost of transportation. All you see they do is to build overhead bridges where there are no vehicles to ply them, to build underpass, massive, you heard 20 billion naira going into an overhead bridge where you can see poverty in communities. People don't have access to Medicare. People don't have access to clean water to even drink. So these are the kind of things you see. So my appeal is that until the federal government who went to Supreme Court summoned the courage to implement that judgment, because the funds are in the custody of the federal government, I do not see any reason where anybody will blame the state governors for not implementing that judgment. That judgment is within the ambit of the federal government to implement. So I do not want to shift blames to the state governments. Of course, the state governments, from their disposition, do not want the local government to be free. So until the federal government does that, there's a lot of work to be done.
Okay, thank you very much, Honorable Akala, who's been joining us from Lafayette. Maybe toward the end of this program, we extend our credits to you. Prof, I requested you to kindly just give me a few minutes.
Right.
That is because of the challenge of security. And Honorable Akala had just said that.
Right.
Until the resources that are due to the local governments are made available to them, there's no way the local governments can contribute at that local level where the insecurity is to handling it.
Right.
Put two questions as you go.
Right.
Can you assess Tinubu administration's performance in terms of handling insecurity? And add to that, taking account of what Honorable Akala has said, should the central government enforce the outcome of the Supreme Court so that the local government can get the funds to contribute to managing insecurity?
Well, in all of our conversations in this room and outside of this room, the submissions are almost alike. And one thing that is germane and central to conversations around this sort of issues is that political will is missing. And there's a need to enforce. There's a need to ensure that you beat people in line. There's the need to ensure that people confirm. There's the need to ensure that there's synergy, and so on and so forth. This has been the central conversation. So that is a given. Until and unless measures are taken, until and unless people are, a line is drawn and people are told to confirm at whatever level to ensure that the national objective is achieved, we're going to continue to rigmarole. Now, to set the tone, the country itself has never had, well, we had one a couple of years ago, 3, 4, 5 years, as a result of intervention from development partners, a national security policy. We have never had one. And we're talking about being serious in tackling security. All we find is just ad hoc arrangements, multinational joint task forces here and there, either at international or domestic level. We do not have a solid national security policy.
I beg to make an observation.
Please go ahead.
In 1982,
right,
the National Institute for Policy and Strategic Studies, did a research on likely security challenges Nigeria would face in the next 10 years. They identified the very source and the likely modus.
Right.
Luckily for me, I had a copy of that research. When Buhari's administration came in, they made an effort to trash that report. Why I say let me disagree? Institutions like that have been creating and keeping such instruments. That shows that the Nigerian institutions are doing something about our threat profile. What would confront us?
Reality is this: national security strategy documents. Pockets of them are being developed here and there. The institute where I work with, this is what we're doing. As a matter of fact, the theme for this year's discourse is non-state actors in security management in Africa, issues, challenges, and prospects. Pockets of strategies are being developed here and there, and they are being put forward to say central government, state governments, key in, look into this. Office of the National Security, come around this conversation and let's see how we can tackle this. But I tell you, under Mongono, when multilateral partners began to pressure Nigeria to say, we need to see your strategic, your security policy, that's when a haphazard ad hoc document was created. And it was passed to them. And we were told at the tail end of the administration that that document was going to be reviewed, etc., etc. But what I don't understand is, why do you set up an ad hoc instrument to look at a document as critical as a national security policy of a country? It is absurd. This is an abysmal, this is the lowest any country can get. So I think in that regard, a lot more needs to be done. We must ensure that these documents are in place, frameworks are put in place, not just at the national level. Governors need to key in. Thank God, on our return from Niger State, we just returned from a state study tour, we decided to come up with recommendations, and part of the recommendation was to develop white papers to state governors who perhaps we see as being up and doing, to ensure that they key into the idea of hosting a national security summit. And this is my view, and I put it out there. And I told Babu, the governor, His Excellency, the governor of Niger State, I said, you have to buy into this. It is existential for the survival of your people. And so that is the first point. Until and unless we address that, all other issues that come after that, that will help build that, you can't build something on nothing. So that needs to be the framework. The second very critical issue, and perhaps the last will be before I leave, is, you see, Nigeria has a population of security personnel of about 900,000 or 1 million thereabouts.
Combined.
Rwanda, with a population of about 20 million people, has a policing community of close to 2 million. The entire police of Kano State, 44 local governments, are not up to 40,000 policemen. And here we are, talk about tackling insecurity. Even the ad hoc arrangements that are being done with respect to community policing to ensure that vigilante groups, for example, and other non-state actors are embedded within the security framework, these things do not see light of day. Why? Because, like some governors have told me, in private, the sort of resources they have to throw into ensuring they sustain this is not sustainable for them. So the point I'm making is, like I said earlier, there's a lot of blame to go around, but we must ensure that we put our acts together and deal with these issues. Because I've tried to ask, what exactly is the reason why we still are short-staffed with regards to our personnel? Is it the motivation? I don't see that as the case. Year in, year out, we see adverts being churned out, and we see the number of young people who are applying for these positions. But the system is not absorbing them. So what exactly is the problem? So we need to look in that direction and ensure that we do the needful and stop this rigmaroling and telling ourselves lies. Because security is at the heart of everything. Just like Robert McNamara said, security is development, and until and unless the people's lives are secured, nobody goes to the farm. As we speak, over 100,000 hectares of farmland have been abandoned in northern Nigeria as a result of insecurity. This is a country where the statistic that came from the World Food Program stated that 60% of the world's arable land is unutilized or underutilized in Nigeria. 60% of that. We can feed the world, and you will never hear of a food glut. You might hear of crude oil glut, whatever other food glut. The people need food. And so that is an essential part. If you cannot guarantee food security, what other security do you want to guarantee? So I think a lot more needs to be done with regards to that. On the final note, like has been said by all speakers, no meaningful development can come to this country without the input of the subnationals. People need to realize that. And I'll close by saying this. In the words of Chairman Mao, he said, and I quote, that all paper tigers are reactionaries. All paper tigers. And when Mao referred to paper tigers, he was talking about leaders. And he said, from a long-time point of view, the real power belongs to the ordinary people. But do we realize what powers we wield as ordinary people? Or are we just going to go along the path of stomach infrastructure? Thank you very much, sir.
Well. Prof, you just asked questions. Let those out there who need to give us answers, not tell us lies. Well, Professor Mukhtar is rushing to another engagement. In fact, I kept him longer than I promised I would keep him. All I can do right now is to thank him. But as I thank him, I will also take a break because we'll continue on this trajectory of security challenge. And my next guest will come in. I'll return to claim to ask him to go ahead and let's x-ray the legislature. Please stay with us. Now, we are conversing on insecurity. As Prof. Mukhtar left, my next guest came in, Otitoji Oladapo, who is also a lawyer. Dapo, you're welcome to the program.
Thank you very much.
Is your learned colleague. Can I move back a little bit in between two lawyers and I go to jail without bail? Am I safe?
You are safe. You're safe.
I'm protected because I'm not learned and I wouldn't know what I say now and get into jail.
You are not learned, but you're educated. So.
Thank you, Toji. You're welcome. Now, we put those clips together from different media houses in this country.
Okay.
So those materials are in the public domain. But I want us to look at the logic from those materials.
Okay.
Mustafa spoke about the international dimension to the challenges we're facing and the management of or mismanagement of resources coming from a survey, an area survey, and established that Nigeria has some of the purest and richest and high deposit of uranium. In this very same Sambisa Forest lectured angle. The next, a general, a senior intelligence officer, clearly saying those sponsoring Boko Haram were in government. This was under the Buhari administration. And he said that some of them were in fact in Aso Rock in the Senate. The next one, a gentleman general who was retired after he successfully arrested the Boko Haram leader. And then a query, why is it that arrested terrorist leaders are not prosecuted? In other words, there's a big challenge. Nigeria knows the source of its challenges. Government knows from what these people have said, know where its problems are coming from. Why are we shy to tackle those problems? Toju, let me begin with it. Is there something that prevents us from tackling? I'm sure you heard what the gentleman in Lafayette said. Enable us and we'll work. With that people, this is where it has been established by our intelligence community the problem is coming from. The other person, I honestly acted on intelligence and arrested those who were involved, and I was sacked. What is happening? Remember that we're discussing 2 years of Tinubu administration. I raised this matter because if it was there before, what is the government doing about it now? Toju.
Well, thank you very much, sir. One thing I know about this system, government is a continuation. Whether you're coming in from the opposition or you're coming from the ruling party. One of the strategic solutions to our insecurity as a nation was not implemented. I was at this particular TV station some time ago, and I shouted it, that the issue of local government is the cradle of all our problems. And as long as local government is not giving funds, we'll continue to have insecurity problems. Because the president in the FCT, Abuja here, is not the one in my village. It's not the one in the east, in Mulere. It's not the one in Kefi. So one thing we need to do is that all these local government chairmen are people who understood their own area and who needed to support their people with the best of security.
Yeah, but Toju, did you hear what that local government chairman said?
Yes,
he said, look, he confronted the military commander,
yes,
behind whose facility the people were slaughtered, and the commander said that they had not been given orders.
These are the issues. A chairman is supposed to be the chief security executive officer of his own local government, and so he will have that discretion and power to make sure that his people are safe. And then condone his community, all the forest, all the environment. If you implement the Supreme Court decision, today, no chairman will be complaining like this. The man is complaining of fault.
He says he's prepared to resign.
I mean, it does not make any sense to me for a chairman to just be there as what?
And people are being
killed under him, and you want him to take responsibility. This responsibility must be discharged when you adequately provide for the people. Chairman, give them the allocation. The way you are giving state governments allocation. Governors are smiling every day. Chairmen are sad, and they are just showing what they want. They are sad. The man is sad. You could see his expression. People are being killed under his watch. He cannot do anything. So these are the problems. President Tinubu must look at it. The Supreme Court decision must be implemented. Local government chairman must have the allocations. With this allocation, we can hold our local government chairman accountable for insecurity. Let him charge them. 774 local government chairmen. Make sure you take care of your boundaries. Make sure you take care of your forest. Sir, with local government allocation, no chairman will not be able, he will be able to set up his own security architecture within his locality. He will be able to engage the hunters. They know the bush more than us, more than the military. How many military understand the bush in my village? How many of them? But the hunters who go there and hunt every day, they know. So you empower them. And then all these formations in the bush, where you have Fulani enclaves, where they do all manner of things, nobody will be seen there. The ravage of villages now, in Kogi State, they went in and picked somebody, an elderly man of about 80-something years, Major David, a retired military officer, and took him off. Today now, we have not had anything about it. Every day we see insurgents, we see, what is it called, banditry. We see all manner of this. And mind you, sir, anywhere you see banditry, there is mineral resources.
Please, let me just tell you something. On this, in this organization,
yes, sir,
we don't use the word bandits.
Okay.
And because we respect former President Muhammadu Buhari, who said that there's no difference between the bandits and insurgents. That the insurgents use banditry when they are running short of funds to fund their insurgency. Okay. So we label them what they are. They're all terrorists.
They're terrorists.
Because we be kid gloving saying they are bandits. It's euphemism for terrorism.
I agree with you. So terrorism is terrorism.
Is terrorism is terrorism. Clement,
sir,
before Dapo came in, because we are assessing Tinubu 2 years, let's not be carried away by present challenges.
It's part of the successes of the
because what I just said to him is that Tinubu, hasn't he done well by making funds available to the local governments? how do we call out the governors? Because that local government chairman said clearly that he wouldn't want to continue as local government chairman who superintends over the affairs of people being slaughtered. And Toju had just said now that if this man had his allocation to set up his own structure of protecting his local government, he mightn't be lamenting like this. All he'll be doing is use the resources to institute a mechanism to solve the problem. What do we do with these recalcitrant governors who are making us seem to converse this morning, most of the time in negative?
Thank you very much for this wonderful opportunity again. I think, like my learned colleague have just said, it's quite elementary that the highest developmental kind of achievement of any government should start from the local government. And by the time the local governments are equipped, the dividends of democracy and the well-being of people will be taken care of at the grassroots. And these are the people who will definitely be talking to you, and they have the population more than even the ones in urban. You know, you understand. So I will continue to see, and I remain resolute on this. I said one of the primary responsibilities of every government is protection of life and property, as well as even providing welfare for that particular. So the indices of a failed state resonate from if you do not provide most of this. And let me just tell you, there is nothing that the president will want to do that he will never do. If he achieves, he has powers. That is that political will that the professor just said before leaving. The political will that the Mr. President used Section 305
to act
in River State, he should equally do some certain things. There are some illegalities so-called that you can do and people will applaud you. I am telling you for facts. As long as there are illegalities you do and people will applaud you. And that is why you see a lot of people jubilating sometime when military takes over. We are not calling for that. But we are saying that there are some certain things he can. There are a constitutional, there are a best court decision which he can work on and take up the governors in making sure that all these things are provided. And there could be a stern warning. You shouldn't be thinking of 2027 and all that. It is people that are alive that will vote by 2027. By the time all Nigerians dies because of poverty, because of hunger, because of starvation, because of insecurity, there will not be anybody left in this country to vote for him in 2027. So it is better and high time he began to find a solution in making sure that the locals and the local government are safe, but by providing resources, they are called their chief security just by word of mouth, where the security architecture is completely federal in nature. A DPO is in charge even more than the governor in a state, and the DPO is controlled by the federal. There is no way you can say police is for the governor or whatever. What I keep on saying is that by the time they do these particular policies and all that, they know the true meaning of this thing. Give the people who are supposed to handle some salient positions on security. I cannot see how a governor will be begging a commissioner of police in a state to help him. He said he's waiting for an order. While my people are dying, you are waiting for an order. So what we are saying in essence is that Mr. President, the whole ball stocks on your table, desk. You should act swiftly. You have a good will. You have a good relationship with a lot of people. But sometimes when you are a driver, you may not be able to see very wide. But if you become a passenger, we are the passengers now, telling you that all is not well with Nigeria. There are a lot of starvation. People are not feeding. A lot of well-grown people are now beggars on the streets. Jobs are lost. Lifestyle, everything has completely gone up. Even accommodation, nowhere to be seen. So what we are saying in essence, what I am saying in essence is just that there are a lot of things that we need to do. While he was a passenger, he was a chief critic. Now he is now the chief pilot.
Well, let us call him a chief visionary.
The chief visionary and chief pilot. I feel that he has the wherewithal because of he has a lot of goodwill with a lot of people because he has touched life of a lot of people. If you pass through his house on a normal daily basis in Lagos, you will find out that he has been consistently feeding a lot of people. But it is not about feeding them. It is to show them how to acquire, to feed themselves. Now you are in charge. You are now the father of all. And I feel that this is an opportunity to redirect this Nigerian economy, make it a very sweet way where everybody can come up and say, I am happy with what is going on. You cannot go on the street of Abuja or anywhere in Nigeria and ask, how is this government faring? They will say, nothing. They are not seeing anything. He may be doing some certain things, but it doesn't trickle down to the locals and local government. And this is why we are saying that the autonomy and the judgment of the Supreme Court in giving that financial autonomy to local government, he should implement it at all costs. Even if he has to lose 2027 election, he should implement it. And I bet you if he can start implementing it and we start seeing results, not the results that the governors will pocket all the local government, appoint them and make them to sign off their money and all that. And the agent of the government, which is the EFCC, the local government chairmen are not under any immunity. They should put up their searchlight and forget about the Yahoo young boys. The Yahoo young boys may be wrong in whatever they are doing, but I feel that their own effect may be international. But within ourselves, we need to eat to be alive. Let them concentrate on where monies are going, and people are now mismanaging that money to the detriment of the masses of the local government.
As a matter of truth, Dapo, before he came in, Clem had given him the burden of looking at the legislature. And my reasoning is this: we are looking at the Tinubu administration 2 years on.
Yes.
The executive is not a lone wolf. It has accompaniment. A critical accompaniment is the legislature.
Yes.
The distinguished Senator Godswill Akpabio, President of the Federal Republic, has used a boxing contest illustration.
President of the Senate.
The Senator of the Federal Republic.
Yes.
That's what it is.
Yes.
He's a distinguished senator.
Not the President of the Federal
No. He's the President
of the Senate.
Of a distinguished institution.
Yes.
Critical to our democracy.
Very good.
He said that he's not there, they are not there to be given wild punches, wearing their gloves and trying to knock send good night punches on the executive. They're supposed to work in collaboration. In assessing 2 years of Tinubu, do you think that the legislature, the National Assembly, has performed its functions well enough to create credit for this government? Oversight functions, looking at the policies and warning the president on the wrong or right policies. What's a contribution?
Honestly speaking, I cannot assess the National Assembly with an average mark. First of all, they have been rubber stamped of everything the president wanted without constructive assessment, and particularly the declaration of state of emergency in Port Harcourt, a democratic institute supporting a military system, a democratic institute romancing a dictatorial rule. A democratic institute making friend with enemy in democracy. That's what I saw. The Constitution is clear about 2/3 of the National Assembly. I have never seen 2/3 of the voice votes in my life.
But I gave you a charge when last week.
2/3 of a voice vote.
No, you're not being fair.
No,
you're not being fair to the National Assembly.
You're not fair to the National Assembly. The National Assembly is a constitution of, is a creation of the Constitution. And being a creation of the Constitution must follow the Constitution to the letter. The letter is clear. The provision of the Constitution has to 2/3 of the votes of the members of the National Assembly. It didn't say 2/3 of the voice because you can't count it.
You see, I don't want to put my gavel because I told you earlier, please, when you come back.
You are not giving me that, so I see you don't know.
I told you to please find us how to. Clem,
yes.
I told Dakbo when he was here last, I said, look, the National Assembly, the Senate and House of Reps were acting within their rights. If not, he should bring along when he comes here next the formula for using sound to arrive at 2/3. The National Assembly has its formula and its scientific formula of using echo in the chamber to get 2/3. And you see, according to
You are the one
process.
you are defending the National Assembly in that guise. I am saying there is nothing like that. I have never seen a voice being measured. The only way is you take every individual representative to make a voice, and that voice will be recorded by name. I have not done that, chorusing a voice in the National Assembly to make 2/3. It is illegal, it is unknown to law. So that's about that. I am assessing them 2 years, whether it is good or bad. I told you I can't give them average mark because they have constituted themselves as rubber stamp to most of the executive provisions, and they have never questioned one single thing about the government. Now look at what Wike is doing. In Nigeria, it is only this Wike that will be the executive, that will be the judiciary, and that will be the legislature at the same time. He became a minister. From the first day he became a minister, he said he will be bringing down properties. We're bringing down properties that are not in line with the master plan. But unfortunately, I am seeing a lot of those things that he is doing now that is against the law. You revoke somebody's property for not paying ground rent. You needed to approach the court to give you order to re-enter. You can't just revoke somebody's property and go to that property and you need to take it. It is barbaric. It is unheard of in history. You went to PDP secretariat, you want to go and seize the place because you have revoked it. What authority do you have? Do you have the power of the court to re-enter? It is only court in Nigeria. It is only court everywhere the one that can make order of re-entry.
Well, I thought that 2 hours was going to be such a long time. Enugu Studios are saying we are ready for the news. Your own news will come from here. Our own news will come from there, so that at 12 o'clock we hear the airwaves. Clem,
sir,
I do not think 2 hours is enough for us.
It's not enough at all.
Not enough.
We have not gone at all.
Yeah, there's so much more to do. But my producer says we'll come back next because I've run out of time.
Okay. I would have chipped in some.
Clem, I want you to have a last word.
Okay. Well, 2 years viewing from the legislature and the judiciary. If you look at from the angle of where the legislative powers is vested on the nation in the National Assembly, while the judicial arm of this thing is vested in the court, my learned colleague there have rightly said that they have completely infuriated. The executive have completely gone in into the legislature. The same way that we need to guard and guard jealously of the aspect of the judiciary, so that they will not infuriate, find their ways in there. But they are finding their ways only indirectly by introducing their relatives to be part of the court. And that is where we must be very, we must be speaking and be guided, so that there will be policies that we need to reduce. I am not saying those that are qualified should not be there, but we have to see how to reduce it in making sure that there are that checks and balances and equity and fair play.
Okay, Clem Toju and my friend Honorable Akala in Lafia and Professor Mukhtar Imam. These have been my 4 guests in the past 2 hours. Frankly speaking, that had much more, they needed much more time for us to interrogate, look at security comprehensively, look at governance, look at agriculture, look at health facilities, look at our reward system, look at the management of labor under the Tinubu in the past 2 years. Time is not on our side. And let me just thank my colleagues. They will always be available for me to interrogate more issues as we go along. For this Thursday, we thank you for investing your time with us. My name is Mwabuz Njoko. Please enjoy the rest of the morning and good day.